Hi everyone, my name is Lily. I'm the book reviewer behind Utopia State of Mind, and I'm going to be bringing you my April wrap up. This is my most up to date, my most on time / early wrap up I've posted all year long. So let me just first start off with the behind the reader segment, which I always forget if I'm going in the front or the back, but today it's going here. I did basically one crochet project. I talked a little bit about it in my last wrap up, which I will link in the description box, but it is my crochet shirt. So I showed in the last wrap up the white and blue one, but this is mine, which is red and white. You can't really see it. When it's finally done, I will maybe wear it in a future wrap up video, but it doesn't have buttons yet. And as you can still see, the ends are not woven in, but the main thing is that I need to go get buttons and sew them on. I feel like if you are a crafter, you will empathize with me in the fact that these kinds of nitpicking, finishing things are sometimes the most difficult things to get yourself motivated to do, which is so silly as I say it and so silly as I think about it because it's done. I've done hours of work on it. I should just finish it, but for some reason my mind's totally moved on to the next thing. So that's what I made for the most part in April. Even though of all the months so far in the year, April I've read the least. I've been the most stressed about reading the entire year. Don't ask me how my brain works, but that just is how it works. In April, I read 21 books, and which is still a lot, but 21 books, which is the least of all the months so far. And I felt the most stressed about the books that I've read, the books I haven't read, the books I'm reading, like whether or not to DNF. It's just been very stressful mentally in terms of reading. So yeah, that's not been great. I feel like I talk a little bit about also what I've been listening to. I didn't really listen to any music for the first half of April, so I don't really have anything to share with you. Hopefully for May, there's going to be a little bit more, mostly because I'm hoping to get back into my music appreciation era. Maybe summer will just spur that for me. What have I been obsessed with? Well, I'm doing one more of these crochet shirts and then I'm done. I'm actually already a quarter of the way through. I've been obsessed though with that for now, but I'm kind of getting into the summer crafting thing. I've also been watching a lot of tutorials about the clay earrings, which I've been sharing with, over the last couple months-ish. So I'm getting ready to get back into that for the summer. That's what I'm obsessed with currently / starting to become obsessed with. And yeah, that's all kind of I have to share in the behind the reader. As I said, I read 21 books. I actually have a really decent stack of books this time. Don't ask me why, but so many of the books are here in front of me, which is wild because this is not 21 books. I wouldn't be able to hold 21 books. But if you've been watching my wrap-ups for a while, you'll know that this is a pretty large stack of physical books since I mostly read audiobooks and ebooks. Audiobooks I haven't really read a lot of in April. I think I read one. It is in my favorites for later, but I'm hoping that things get back to normal a little bit more for the summer. Also hoping that I just enjoy a little bit more time outside. I'm sure everyone is thinking that for the summer. So, of the 21 books, 57% of those featured main characters of color, and 29% of those featured queer characters. So, as you know, if you've been following for a while, 50% and 33% are my target goals. Normally, it's pretty easy to get to because of the volume of books. As you see, 57-29, not quite there yet, but very, very close. So overall, I'm just going to kind of let that roll with me. Let's just see. Okay, let me just start off with in the list, which is not actually organized by anything except for kind of age group. Let's just start off with adult books. And actually, I'm going to also feature a little bit book here where I wouldn't necessarily say it was like a 5-star read for me. It was still a very, very good read for me, but it was the most surprising. So I am going to talk about that, but at the end, it is an adult book, which is why I'm mentioning it now. The favorites and the only one I read on audio was Book Lovers. This is kind of a little sneak peek of what it will be when I do my Emily Henry video, which I haven't done yet because I haven't read Funny Story yet. That's another audiobook. I needed to wait and write my review for Book Lovers before I moved on to Funny Story. But Emily Henry has been taking me on a journey I have not really liked the last few Emily Henry books. Spoiler to my video that will be coming later, but as you can tell, I loved Book Lovers. I'm also was reading a few other books in April, which featured either author characters or literary characters, publishing characters, and okay, I have a soft spot for books like that. Call it what it is. Books with authors, books with agents, editors, any of those kinds of things will just kind of get under my skin a lot more. And Book Lovers does. There's an agent and an editor, so what's not to love? Also, the chemistry and the love interest in Book Lovers felt so much more fleshed out as a character than I have felt for a variety of different Emily Henry love interest characters. So that's all I really want to say, because I want to save most of my other thoughts for the Emily Henry video that is in the works. After I write my review for Book Lovers, I'm immediately starting the next audiobook for A Funny Story. The next one I actually just finished today, and it's The Sins on Their Bones, and this was just such a tender, how do I describe it? It was like tender and emotional, angsty, but also like emotionally upsetting at the same time, in the sense that, a lot of it is about unpacking abuse, unpacking a toxic relationship, so emotionally upsetting in that sense, but it's also a book about found family and love and rebellion, while also being like a Jewish-inspired historical-esque fantasy. Like, all of these things are all combining to make this book that kind of stole my heart over the last couple of days that I was reading it, just in the way that at various points in the book, the themes, the actions, the characters, kind of the toxic relationship, and the, recognizing your own past in an abusive relationship, and also the guilt complex, survivor complex, all of those things. At various points in the books, those kinds of things they were highlighted a little bit more, but it felt so cohesive and seamless. So definitely would recommend it. It's coming out in May, so you can still pick it up. By the time this video airs, it won't be out yet, but it will be very soon. So those are my two adult picks I wanted to talk about now until the end of the video, when I do my sneaky beaky other one. I want to talk now about YA books. I have 2 out of the 3 here with me. I'm actually waiting for my pre-order of the other one to come. But the first one I want to start off talking about is We Are Never Getting Home. I really love this. I love books with friendship breakups / complex friendships, messy friendships. I think that friendship difficulties and friendship breakups can be one of these overlooked universal experiences you have, specifically in high school and around the time that We're Never Getting Home is set, right before you're going off to college decisions. That time is so universal in terms of friendship overhauls. Will we still be friends? When our lives are going in directions, will we still be friends? I feel like high school is such a microcosm, in the sense that it's almost like trauma bonding. And then you have to sort of wonder, when I evolve and develop into a different person, or evolve into knowing myself more, am I going to be friends with these people anymore? So We're Never Getting Home is kind of like that, but it's also about having a friend where you feel like they need to know things, or they need to speak up for themselves a little bit more, and being frustrated that that person isn't doing it, or having those resentments, and sort of the culmination of 4+ years of these little fights that never get resolved, or these things that you never say that come to a head before you're leaving. That is We're Never Getting Home, all in a nutshell, also set with a music festival. I really loved the main character, because sometimes you really wanted to shake her, but I was like, you are me as a teen, but also as I am now. I want to shake myself a lot, and so this was kind of the perfect book to read for that, and it's also the perfect summer book. And the next one is Dear Wendy. This is set in college, but I think it's set as freshmen in college. Yes, freshmen in college. So not super far in the college journey. It's more of I guess, it is YA, but it's more of an older YA book, I guess, because of that. But this is such a beautiful book about friendship, and it's a book that features asexual identities, aspec identities, and it is just such a beautiful book about friends and perceptions of friendships and perceptions of people and perceptions of ourselves. It kind of hits a spot for me for a variety of different reasons. One of them being that I've really loved those kinds of chicken soup for the soul kind of books where you're asking for advice. I think that asking for advice and giving advice are such kind of telling experiences about what is how you see yourself and sort of what are the problems in your life that you are focusing on. And so Dear Wendy is about that, Dear Wanda and Dear Wendy. It's dual perspective, which I think is an expert move here to kind of talk about what I'm talking about is perceptions of people, what happens when we're wrong, what happens when someone is like inherently picking up on something that we see or something. How do I describe this? You know, when you meet someone and something bothers you about that person, and it takes a really long time before you realize that what bothers you is actually something that upsets you about yourself. You know, it's a trait that you both share, but it's very easy to see in someone else that bothers you when in reality you need to do a little bit of self-reflection. That also is Dear Wendy, also with A-spec identity representation. It is just so fabulous. I loved it so much. It kind of just warmly hugged me the entire time I was reading. And the last one is Kill Her Twice by Stacey Lee. It's Stacey Lee's latest book. It also came out at the end of April. Stacey Lee, historical fiction queen. I have loved all of Stacey Lee's books so much. Kill Her Twice is in the contention for my top Stacey Lee book. It is so close with also The Downstairs Girl, which is one of my favorite. I also loved the Titanic one. Stacey Lee's books, Chef's Kiss, they talk often about the representation of Asian Americans or Asian people within the United States as well at different points of history, which are not often shone a light on. For example, we're talking about Hollywood here in the Titanic one is that one, and then in the Downstairs Girl, it's in the South, American South. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. As I said, historical fiction queen. We loved the setting. I also loved the sister relationships. I do wish that I got more of the third sister, but she is the youngest, so I definitely understood why. But I think what I loved about this one too is I think it's really fun when you're reading dual perspective sister stories because you get a lot of layers about this is how I see myself and this is how I see my sister. And then you switch to other perspective and it's like, that's how I see myself. This is how I see my sister. And so you have all of these different layers of expectations about, oh, this person is never going to do that because they're not reckless. This person needs to be more reckless. You have all of those different layers that you have in a family dynamic. And I think it was really great to see that in Kill Her Twice. It's also a murder mystery, murder investigation that also talks about corruption. It talks about prejudice as well against Asian Americans. So in general, it was just very a book that transported me and also a book that I really appreciated reading at the same time. And now I want to talk a little bit about my Sneaky Beaky book. So basically, I was pitched the book that broke the world. And I was like, oh, wow, that looks really interesting. I love magical libraries. Like, please. If you have anything to say to me at the end of the video, please recommend me more magical library books in the comments below because I love them so much. And so when I saw magical libraries in this book, I was super intrigued, but I had not read the first one. So I read the first one as an ebook, and then the publisher sent me this one. And so while it wasn't necessarily a 5-star read for a variety of different reasons for me, I thought this book was very, very, very close, mostly because, and this is the second book that I keep holding up, but the first book and the second book together were really fabulous. They're both different in different ways. You have to read it to know what I mean. The first one feels very insular because it's based a lot on, I don't know how you're pronouncing anyone's names. This is what happens when you read a book, but Levira and Evar, maybe? The first book is very much on them and kind of figuring out what the library is. I guess how I would describe this book, and maybe why it didn't make it to the 5-star jump for me, more like a 4.25-ish, 4.5. If you like one of those books where you read, in my case, 2 books out of a trilogy and are still like, well, I love the magical library, but like, how do I explain it to people? The world building is still very nebulous after reading both of these 2 books. That's kind of the vibe. That's kind of the point, I guess. No one even in the book necessarily is like, it definitely knows how things work. So that's a personal choice or a personal opinion for me where I kind of just like a little bit more knowing. Mostly because, and maybe this is a topic I can talk about if other people really want to. I've had this problem in a few other magical library books that I've read, but one of the reasons you get a lot of payoff when things happening sort of discount or counteract away a rule about the world is that you find that really emotional resonance of a rule about this world has broken. And when the world is so nebulous for yourself, you'll still get those twists, and wow, there are some twists. But they don't have that like mind-breaking quality in the sense which we as humans like to think of things as rules. We like to think of things as constants when in reality nothing is constant. But when you have those kinds of ideas about what can happen, when things happen that you don't expect, then that emotional kind of gut punch is there a little bit stronger than it is in these first two books because the world building is more nebulous. So that's why, I guess. But I really deeply enjoyed these books, and I was not expecting to, because maybe this is like gonna get me, not a good look for me or my channel, but I feel like it's in line with what who I am and what I cover. I don't read a lot of very popular cis white straight men on my channel and in general in my life and like on my book reviewing platforms. This has been something that people have commented to me about, so it's certainly not something that is like going over people's heads. I'm just actively, as I mentioned in my How to Read More Diversely video, which I will link below as well, actively trying to read more diversely. And so I'm kind of very picky about who I make as an exception to that rule. Magical libraries, they're gonna get me every time. But anyway, I was pleasantly surprised by this just because, yeah, it's not a space I'm normally in. Mark Lawrence is pretty prolific in terms of fantasy. I've read, I don't know, maybe this has a list of all the various Mark Lawrence books. But look, I don't know if you can see it. A whole page of books, of Mark Lawrence books. And to be fair, I have read maybe Red Sister or something like that. And I've seen some of these other releases go by. And I was like, meh, So I did want to mention that because I was really pleasantly surprised. It's been a while for me and a while since I've read a Mark Lawrence book. So I just wanted to mention it because magical libraries are going to get me. I have the feeling if you're following me and our reading tastes are aligned, you will also really enjoy magical library books. So I just wanted to mention that at the end of this video. I hope that you all have a really great rest of your reading day, week, month, and year. I'm really excited for May. I feel like May is going to be, I don't want to say it, but I feel like May is going to be a really good month just because I hope to get back in the groove of listening to audiobooks, making more, like crafting, doing more hobby things, enjoying the outside. I feel really optimistic about May and the summer. So I hope that I see you throughout the rest of the year. I hope that you subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.